Hello, everyone. We have a very special episode upcoming. It is our anniversary episode, and we are finally doing Batman Eternal. And while we're doing it, we are also going to be doing our Batman Eternal Anniversary Award Show. So we are going to have a bunch of polls up on our Twitter for you all to vote in. So go over on our Twitter, cast your votes to be a part of our special episode. Hello and welcome to the Gotham Outsiders, feverishly avoiding Lady Shiva. I am your host, Fat Obsessive Chris, and fighting his way through the League of Assassins, my co-host TJ.
Hello, everyone. I am your Chris proclaimed Batman still acolyte.
For now. But we are not alone. No, like Tim Drake, we know when to phone a friend. So we have called in writer of the Adam Binder series and very many exciting things to come, David R. Slayton.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me.
So excited to have you.
Yeah, I've heard so much about you from Chris, and we were just saying we've been mutuals on Twitter for a hot minute. So it's so nice to get to know you here now. And I didn't know you were such a big Tim Drake fan.
Oh, Tim Drake was my Robin. So we got to start. Let me just start right off that. Please. Tim Drake, Batman Year 3, the introduction of Tim Drake. I could afford 2 comic books when I was a teen, and one of them was the Titans, and the other was Robin. I started reading because of Tim. So yeah, huge. Tim and I was there at the beginning when he first hit the scene, and the fact that he's come out as bi and has a boyfriend makes me so happy. Every online poll I've ever taken that's like, what comic book character should you date? It's always Tim Drake. So yeah,
yes.
Tim Drake is my guy.
He says while wearing a Nightwing t-shirt.
I didn't have a Tim shirt, so I ran to the closet and dug out the only thing I had. So.
The second best Robin, maybe. Actually, that's a question. What is your Robin ranking?
Oh,
it's gonna have to go Tim, Dick, Stephanie, and I still feel like she didn't get a fair enough run on it. Jason, Damian.
That's a good ranking. Fair. I like it. I like it a lot.
I actually know who all the Robins are now, which I did not.
Are growing
when we started.
Look at you go. You've even learned who Duke Thomas is. You're really growing,
yeah,
TJ.
Like I got that reference. It's me.
Deep cut.
Oh, it shouldn't be a deep cut, but we do keep losing him in the time stream, but not as much as we've lost Tam, Lucius Fox's daughter.
Oh my God. Okay. Also, whatever happened to Cullen? So I'm happy that Tim has found Bernard, but
I know.
Cullen's still around. He most recently he's been he's in the Punchline books and backups recently, and he's had like a love story, but it's kind of weird. It's like with some Joker gangster guy.
I feel like as soon as a new writer is writing Tim, he's gonna. I just feel like Bernard's time is limited. It's just in my heart. I feel.
I volunteer DC if you want me.
Yes, please, David. Okay,
it's one of my dream jobs would be
100%. Do you have a Tim ship? Like, who do you want Tim with?
Cullen. I want him with Cullen.
Yeah, I do like Cullen.
I always wanted him with Cullen.
Have they like interacted though? Like,
yeah, Cullen has a big crush on him, TJ.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I didn't know this. I was like, but because they're the 2 gay guys in Gotham?
No, he has a crush on him. It's an established fact that Cullen has a huge crush.
Okay.
On Robin specifically.
That's cute.
So yeah,
and on Tim specifically.
Yeah, you know when we could totally have a Gem situation going on, like the show Gem, where he's crushing on one and the other, not knowing they're both. It'd be great.
So much fun to write.
How do you feel about the Bernard?
I like Bernard. I'm totally cool with Bernard. I just feel like it's like, come on, Cullen was right there.
Right.
So real.
Yeah.
But kind of like what you said about Tamara. Like there's I get annoyed when a writer comes in and takes a character and then they just drop the supporting cast or they vanish or I really want to see, this is why I love Peter David so much. Peter David is a master, like when he got Shatterstar and Richter together after so long.
Yes.
Such a good job of picking up on that thread from 20 years prior.
Right.
About Richter and Shatterstar crushing on each other. And then when he brought it to fruition, I was just like, Peter David is the master of the deep cut, of finding a piece of dropped continuity bringing it forward into the modern era.
That's so funny that you mentioned that, because I have that specifically in my notes for this episode. I bet we can never guess why I'm bringing it up, but
I have a feeling it might be Tim Conn
he also wrote the Young Justice series with Tim and Connor and all that. So
yeah. You never know.
Well, if you haven't guessed, listeners, we're talking about Red Robin, The Grail, and Collision by Chris Yost, Ramon Bachs, and Marcus Toe, I believe. Which these issues are collected really weirdly. They it's 1 through 5 in issue 1, and then 6 to 12, volume, and then volume 2 has 6 to 12. So splits up that middle arc and pretends there is no middle arc. It's very bad. Anyway,
I just wrote comicsology on this one because it was just easier.
Yeah. I did the DC Infinite, and I was like, all right, 1 to 12.
Yeah, I was too. It is, I don't know, that was a weird way to volumize it, if that's the word. To put it into volumes.
That's a word.
It is now.
I think it's because the artist changed. So the original artist was for 1 through 5, and then Marcus, I don't know if it's Toe or 2. I tried to Google it. I'm gonna go 2. Just as a guess. But I think Marcus picked it up at issue 6. So I think
that had to be what they were going off of. I was plot wise, I'm like, that's part 1 though of the next arc. Issue 5.
Oh, it's fair.
All right, well, we can't talk about it yet though, right? We gotta
I was gonna say, I've got to we got right into it, which is very on track of us, but then I'm gonna derail us back to a game.
No, we have anticipation.
If listeners haven't picked up on this or haven't also listened to my other show, David came on Thirsty on Toon as well and played a very rousing game, a Smasher Pass. But this time we were going to play another party game classic. We're going to play Would You Rather. All right. So you and TJ will be playing Would You Rather. I will assign points at random. The thing you should know about our show is, unlike over on my show with Bronwyn, TJ never wins, even though it's totally fair and not absolutely rigged against him.
Yeah, never. We'll see.
All right. So your first scenario for the two of you to consider: would you rather be chased around Europe by Lady Shiva or Ra's al Ghul?
Lady Shiva, because she's just so hot. And I think her bit is the White Canary. Also, there's that wonderful run where she was trying to be good and it was just painful. I love it so much.
My answer is roundabout, because I feel like I don't know either of them very well and enough to be like, oh, here's why. But my impulse is to go to Raish. And my reasoning, which I don't know if it's going to make sense, but to me, I'm like, well, he has Lazarus pits, so they're both going to kill me. And if he kills me, I guess there's a chance I could use the Lazarus pit and maybe I'll come back.
There's a pretty high chance. If he is the one who's pursuing you, he probably bring you back, because then how else would he forcibly make you the father of his new heir?
Oh my goodness.
I was gonna say, if he's after you, there's probably a good reason, he needs you to impregnate someone.
I'll charm him.
Generally his modus operandi. So
that got me. The impregnating.
I'm swirling back around to what you just said. Did you say your solution to this would be to seduce him? Is that what you just said?
Me?
Yes.
That's always my solution.
Amazing.
Well, I think you probably have a better chance seducing him than Lady Shiva, so that makes sense, TJ.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's valid.
All right. So, who won that one? David won that one. What? I think. Yeah.
I think TJ's answer was better. I just have a weakness for very, tough women who take shit, as you know from my books. So
right. 100%.
Can't blame you.
And TJ just wants to seduce old men on the show, apparently. So
yeah, usually not my thing, but he was looking pretty good.
He's hundreds of years old. He's gonna have some technique. He's gonna have moves. They might be from the 1700s.
Yeah, I don't know. Do it old school.
I thought you said moobs. It's like, yeah, he'll have moobs. He's pretty old.
I know he keeps it tight.
He keeps it tight.
The Lazarus Pit.
He keeps it white too. He was looking real pale in this book.
Yeah.
We are gonna talk about the whitewashing.
Yeah,
we sure are, because you are not wrong, man. He did. Yeah, that artist. Gotta wonder. This was that time period where they were like extra problematic with the art.
I was just even having that problem with like Tamara's hair, right? Like,
yeah.
I need to know. I need some confirmation that if a Black woman's hair looks that way, that it's a weave, right?
Yeah,
some level of like, natural hair at all, if I can get it. But yeah, no.
Yeah, but considering that Damien is like a sheet of paper white in this, I feel like I just wanted it to be the TikTok audio where it's like, whose white baby is that?
My mind went to the Mean Girls. Why are you white?
Yeah, Damien, why are you white?
Okay, what's our next question?
Oh yes, we're playing a game. So would you rather be Robin for Dick Grayson or Bruce Wayne, and why?
Dick. Mm-hmm. So okay, would I be Robin for Dick or Bruce? Okay, yes. I felt like I misunderstood because I was like, the question. That's so easy. Dick, because he's way nicer.
Way nicer, he's way funnier, and you get to watch him swing, so there's
swing behind him, not in front of him. You get that view.
You gotta follow the moon.
What their names are. Is it Juan and what's the other one? Like, I know.
Oh God, yes. I forgot that they had names.
I can't remember what they've named as butt cheeks.
I forgot about that. Oh God, so real. Okay. So no one's signing up for Bruce duty.
No. Not when Dick is the option.
Nobody needs that emotional damage. Got it.
The double entendres just write themselves.
I mean, all right. So would you rather fight the Council of Spiders or the League of Shadows, and why?
League of Shadows.
Okay. Why?
I don't like spiders.
Okay, just the spiders. They're too creepy.
And was someone's name Sack?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
we are definitely going to talk about that because I too noted it.
Okay, yeah.
That was weird. There was a lot of weirdness in that. Probably the same. I probably have to go with the League of Assassins because also if you did they would respect you enough to bring you in. Like they're awful assassin types, but they at least have like some kind of code. And the Council of Spiders are just, jerks, spider-themed jerks.
They're just living the purge every day.
Yeah.
Fair.
No,
okay.
I couldn't do it. That flashback with all the spiders. Oh.
Yeah, that was pretty gross. I'm not gonna lie. Fair enough. So you both have been very aligned in these, so I feel like I need to make them harder.
I mean, I feel like David's answer was better than mine, though. For this one, this specific question, just because mine was very simple.
Hating spiders is a valid reason. I'm just saying.
Oh, thank you.
I think I'll skip down to some of the harder ones then, just to see if we actually get some difficulty in here.
I like David and I are championing each other.
This is always how it goes. You're unionizing against me as the game master.
But his answer was good.
So unfair.
All right, give us a hard one.
Okay. Let's see. What is the hardest one I have here? All right.
Surpriser.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. You are given control of the Lazarus Pit. You can only resurrect one of these two. They're currently dead. Are you bringing back Connor Kent or Bruce Wayne? Why?
Oh, that's a good one. And it ties into the plot.
Tough one. If I'm besties with Tim, I got to bring back Connor because it's his best friend. So that's not a,
Mm-hmm. For his sake, you're gonna bring back Connor.
I also feel like everything going on with the Bat family right now, where Bruce is dead, I think at the moment again, it comes and goes. But
who can say?
I was like, is he? Yeah, okay, I'll give it.
I think in some ways Bruce is sort of played out, and there's plenty of other people who could take on his different roles, which is sort of what's happening right now. And
yeah, that's fair.
Also, I'm sorry. Back to the is he dead? I was like, well, Dark Crisis, and then I'm thinking, oh wait, no, he kind of died in another storyline too. There's so many where
but he's also kind of alive in one of the storylines, right?
Possibly
it's like Jean Grey. Just make resurrection her power.
Right.
We can just be done with it.
And these plots are happening at the same time, which makes it even funnier.
I know. That's what I was trying to think. I was like, which one is canon? We don't know.
I do feel like Bruce's death fucked Tim up pretty bad. So I'm like, if I pick Connor, like, I don't know, because it feels like in this book, maybe he got over Connor a little bit, because he does say like, oh, I gave up on you. Like, I accepted that you were gone. Whereas with Bruce, I'm not doing that because I learned my lesson. But my answer would be Connor, because Bruce lived his life and did what he wanted to do, and Connor was younger and
TJ
had a lot going for him.
What's the real reason?
I shipped him, Connor.
There we go. sitting here lying to our listeners.
Come on, did you read those scenes in this book? They were excellent. But
I mean, the scene where he stared longingly
on the original Titans run where they teamed up originally.
Oh yeah.
Again, and that was the thing when you're a queer kid reading this stuff, you're like looking, is there subtext here?
Oh yeah.
Well, and they just retconned that Tim was in love with him during all this stuff going on. He's realized it now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, we're halfway there.
Connor's like a dad now. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on.
I pretend that doesn't exist.
Are we talking about baby? Are we talking about in Titans where he's pregnant with a snake?
Oh my
baby?
Goodness. No, there's a whole other different kid. I think he adopts. It's an adopted kid.
Oh, David's face.
I have here's the problem with me in comics. What happens is I tune out for 10 years and then I come back and I'm like, it's kind of like playing World of Warcraft after a 3-year hiatus. You're like, what is everything's changed? But at the same time, you're like, oh, Batman's dead. I'm like, I'll give it a minute.
Yeah. It's one of those where you come back and you're like, okay, the X-Men are still fighting the, Magneto. But also, when did Jubilee become a vampire?
I was there for that part.
Yeah.
I like that one though. I liked it.
But I mean, if someone told you, hey, there's going to be a Titans show, an episode where Tim is going to kiss a guy and Connor's pregnant, but those two plots aren't related, I would have never saw that coming.
Pregnant with a snake baby. I feel like we can't skip over the impreg with snake baby. It was jarring because I'm not caught up on that show. I just went on Twitter and suddenly everyone was like, wait a second, is Connor pregnant? And I was like, in what timeline? In what world?
Yeah, Chris wrote me and was like, hey, and where is Connor pregnant? I'm seeing this all over Twitter. I'm like, I'm thinking all the books Connor's in. I'm like, there's so few. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's the Titans show.
I am so totally out of touch right now with everything. Again, I've got so many books to write and editing and all the stuff going on in my writing life that I get completely. And this is one of the reasons I stopped reading comics extensively, because I realized A, I was spending hundreds of bucks a month on it, and B, the crossovers and the spread is getting impossible to keep up with what's happening. I'm like, it's funny though, because there's like this one segment of time where I was so highly invested in everything. Like after Infinite Crisis, there was the 1 year later jump. I was reading everything. So I have like an encyclopedic knowledge of that slice of time.
Right. That's how I feel right now. I'm thriving in this era of Batman.
Yeah.
If you're going to read anything, read the Poison Ivy book that's out right now. It is so good.
I hear good things.
Yeah.
I hear good things about the Harley show.
That is amazing.
So good.
Yeah. Very gay. Love it. Can't recommend enough. It's hard. I feel like starting the show, we've gotten a bit more consistent with reading things, but before that, my knowledge was like a little from here, a little from there, a little from there, and then it just kind of all got smashed together by the fandom. And at this point, I can't tell you what actually happened and what we've all collectively decided happened.
One of the things I love to do is every couple of years I'll go out and just go on a deep Wikipedia binge and just catch up on like everything I've missed in 10 years and be like, oh wow. And if the run sounds good enough. But I tend to follow creators and writers more than I follow characters. So I'll like, oh, Ed Brubaker, what is he doing now? Like, that's kind of how I tend to roll.
Yeah.
Wait, do you love Winter Soldier too? Have we not discussed this?
We have not discussed the Winter Soldier thing. So we'll have to say
you said Brubaker, and I was like, Bucky.
I triggered you in a good way.
Yeah, you did. You do that on the regular. People should follow us on Twitter to watch David just constantly tease me with things that I can't have.
Writing as fast as I can. The wall of Post-its is over here.
So. Very excited for your conspiracy board of story plots over there.
It's weird for me to think about this book and be like, oh, it's taking place during Batman and Robin, Batman Reborn, which was the first book we talked about.
It doesn't feel simultaneous. It is, but it doesn't feel it.
Like plot wise, I can see that, but in terms of vibes, though, this just feels very different.
You contrast this to the Grant Morrison stuff that was happening with Dick and Damian, and I'm like, wow, that's such a different tone.
Yeah,
right. I also love we get like a panel of Jason, and I was like, that's not what Jason looks like in this time period. They just fully were like, make him old Jason. We're not putting that weird pill on his head for this comic.
All right, back it up. Who won this game?
Yes, I definitely didn't forget again if we were playing this game. I actually feel like this one might be a legitimate tie in that I was not ever assigning points.
Okay.
I'm going to cede all of my points to TJ so he can win this one.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
I was going to say tie by default.
That is an illegal move. TJ is not allowed to win. The points have been voided.
I'll take a tie. But I appreciate
now
it. Now you
both
David.
have lost. So
I just
we
tried.
We did a live show at FlameCon and the entire audience refused to let TJ win. It was beautiful.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, it was fun. I feel like the reason why we've taken a break for so long, this is our first book talk book in a while. Like, I feel like FlameCon was our end game goal for a long time. So getting to do that,
it was like a season finale. And now
it felt like a sense of accomplishment. So I'm glad to be here with both of you, kickstarting our journey
third
once
season,
again.
I guess we're on now.
We're on phase 4 now.
Break it up like that.
The longest season 1 ever.
Right.
This is our back half. All right, let's get into the meat.
I know. I was going to make the game longer, but we all just want to talk about Tim. So let's do it.
Meat of Red Robin
1 through 12. All right. Do we want to just overall impressions? What do people think of this series? Have you read it before, David?
I hadn't. It was just funny because I meant to when it came out. And I was reading the Morrison stuff. I have them in trade somewhere in all this disaster of a house. And I was reading a lot. I was reading stuff being put out at the time. I liked the idea of Dick coming into his own. I found a lot of the Morrison stuff a little too gritty for me with Mr. Pig, right? It was just a little too dark for where
my God.
But I really loved him, and I've always, like I said, I've always loved him. He's my guy. So I kind of always meant to, and I really like Christopher Yost writing on New X-Men when he was there.
Me too. That's what I grew up with. That one of my favorites.
Annalie, the gay lizard boy. Like again, like love his stuff. So I kind of was surprised I never picked this up, and then. Man, I have to admit, I powered my way through the 12 issues for this, and I thought it started kind of strong. I liked the hook, and I thought it ended really strong. I definitely think Marcus 2's art is superior, so that helped me.
Yes.
But man, that like issue 2 through 6 or 7 spot, that is a rough bit of writing sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. The middle was a little slogger-y for me. Like once he got out of the League hideout and went back to Gotham, I was like, all right, that was the highlight for me.
I agree. I think I don't know. I love the series, first of all, like just overall love the series. It's so much fun. This is absolutely where the fandom conception of Tim came from. Like every retcon that's come after, the collective fandom has ignored. They're like, no, this is Tim. And I kind of had forgotten, right? I'd kind of forgotten that, but like, so Tim, since this time, Tim's retcons have been, sometimes he isn't adopted, sometimes his parents are alive, sometimes he never was Robin, which I hated that retcon. That made me so mad. He just started as Red Robin. Dumb. I'm never not going to be mad about that one, but that constantly that stuff happens, and through it all, like the fandom just held on with like a fierce grip to this Tim. They were like, no, you can say he's not a Wayne as much as you want. We know he is Tim Wayne. We know it. He stalked Batman, he got into the family, and he is a Wayne. Like, we're keeping that in our hearts and our minds. And also, he is a mentally ill little boy. It's just really struggling, and it's all from this.
I feel like Wayne Family Adventure definitely brought that back, and Megan over on the Robin title. That's what I was going to say.
It has all reverted back now because of Wayne Family, and then Robin's main story now has reverted back to this past. So I feel like the fandom willed it back into existence. We fully manifested it. I love that.
I find it so interesting because Tim was my Robin. I was a teenager when he was first introduced, and Jason was dead, and I wasn't reading comics when Jason died. So I was there for dark, grieving Batman, dealing with Jason's death, and Tim having to basically force himself in, and everyone else being, hey, he's your new Robin, and Bruce being like, I don't want one. So the idea, and that was such an amazing story, the way they wove Tim in originally. So to retcon that out is a terrible idea.
It never made sense, and they also never explained it because they never filled in the gap of like, well, then how did he get here? they just skipped over that bit. It was weird.
And I liked it when his dad was alive. So I read the Robin solo series, his solo series. I liked that Tim's dad was alive and that he had that different than the other Robins that set him apart. That the reason that this one didn't resonate with me so much was and when he was grieving Connor after the Titans 1 year and he was dating Cassie, like that all worked really well for me. I think part of why this didn't work as well for me, and doesn't mean it's bad writing or it's bad book or anything, is that it's dark Tim. He's no longer, because Tim is super, super smart. He's the best detective of all the Robins. Next to Bruce, he's the best detective. Yeah. And the fact that he's making kind of these dumb mistakes in the beginning of this run because his grief is overpowering his intellect, that just didn't quite feel quite right to me. But I think we all are syncing up on the fact that in order for a Robin character to work, they need to be in Gotham.
Oh yeah. 100%.
The fact that he's bouncing all over the world wasn't such a bad thing, but it's like it felt very just disjointed between Paris, Berlin, I can't remember the other one, Athens, and then it's just basically all these different places, and then Iraq for a while, a slog in the desert. So it just kind of felt very it was a little too frantic. Like if they just slowed down and maybe put a location or two less. I needed to see more of that grief and that emotion in the beginning. That would have helped, and then I would have believed that Tim would be able to forget his massive intellect because of his grief if they had just given me a tad more of that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It reminded me a lot, as you mentioned you read his solo. They did a similar thing when he was trained by Shiva, and he went to Paris, and I was wondering if they were trying to do like a bit of a callback to that, with Tim's going to be the one that's going all over and meeting all of these like martial artists and everything. But you're right, they did it at such a weird pace, whereas that one was like, let's settle in. Tim's like a teenager in Paris and like there for a while instead of frantically globe-trotting.
That was the other kind of weird part about it. And I'm not trying to pull it apart. I'm just
we're here to do it.
But you're right about those callbacks, because I think in the first issue, he references his training by Shiva, his training at the hands of King Cobra, when he was blindfolded. That all, you're right. Those were, I think, very intentional callbacks. The fact that one of the hits takes place in Hong Kong, where his his solo series started at his training. But then the other thing that felt kind of like a little bit disjointed was the characterization. Like I couldn't get a grip on how old he's supposed to be. Like they talk about him being a minor. They talk about him being a minor.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he becomes an emancipated minor at one point in the plot. But I'm like, this feels like a gritty, angry early 20s guy, not a 17-year-old.
It literally doesn't seem possible that he's a teenager based on everything that happens in the story. But that is, I would like to say, welcome to the last 15 years of Tim Drake. The last time we were sure of his age was probably when he was still just Robin.
Yeah, I think it's still ambiguous. I did a poll on Twitter. And I put 16, 17, 18, 19, I think. And I was like, all right, how old's Tim? And I think I got quite a few votes and responses. And I think the general fan consensus was 19. was as of last year. People think he's 19.
But we don't know because I don't know, David, if you're aware of the phenomenon that is the sliding scale of Bat family ages, which is that. So this is the phenomenon that's happened since about the Snyder run, the Scott Snyder, not Zack Snyder, not movies, but the Scott Snyder run, which is their ages are slowly compressing until they will all eventually be the same age.
Yeah, like Damien's 15 now.
Yeah, Damien is spontaneously gone from 8 to 15, whereas Dick has gone from somewhere close to 30 back down to 22, with Jason jumping to 21. So they're only like 1 year apart. Somehow Tim is in there. We're not sure. Maybe 19. And Bruce is only 30.
If I had to, like, if someone said, David, we're going to put you in charge of all this, which no one should, because I don't have the brain for it, but
I think you do, and I would love it, for the record.
I would need like the office to have a giant murder wall of, like, this is the character, and that's kind of what felt weird to me. Like, everything you've said about the retcons or whatever is, as I was reading this and analyzing it as, again, writer, editor brain, trying to make sense of it all, I'm like, what somebody needs to do is have like a character Bible for each character, and they may, with the DC offices.
Don't think writers, that there's not evidence of it. If there is,
I know that like continuity, like Star Trek, for example, has continuity editors, so that if you are writing on when you arrive to work at a Star Trek show, you go to Star Trek 101, and somebody trains you, educates you on Star Trek history. And I feel like that's kind of what should be happening here. Is somebody should say, Tim Drake is 19, and that is inalterable, unless we have time travel or whatever. But at the end of the story, he's going to be back to 19.
Yeah, that would help so much. But like I said, there is literally this one panel that everyone kind of lost their minds over for a while, where they accidentally, it's just straight on one panel, Bruce Wayne saying that he basically adopted Dick when he was 19. And we were like, what? And since then they've obviously like walked that back a lot, but that was, some writer was like, this is the only way for Bruce Wayne to be as young as we're saying he is. He had to have been like 19 when he adopted Dick.
Only the way to make this work is to never state it. I think that's smart. Constitutionally vague about it. You just never name the character's age, and then you can kind of, you have wiggle room, and then the fans can kind of guess, and that's okay if they're wrong or right. But man, to just don't ever put a number on it.
Yeah.
You've written yourself into a corner.
Meanwhile, this one is like, he was in high school, he is an emancipated minor, and he is a CEO.
You said you were a fan of the new X-Men. I feel like that's the same thing that's happened with Laura X-23 over there. Like, she's progressed to be in her 20s and be on the X-Men, whereas all of her peers who were the same age are still
That's always funny to me, where they just, where some of them age and the other ones don't. They don't explain it. No explanation.
In my mind, I'm like,
don't have any of that going on. That's never been a problem with the Titans at all.
Right.
Right. Oh God.
But so I totally agree with what David was saying about Tim being a little too dark for me here. Like, I appreciate the arc that he goes on in these 12 issues, but I feel like, we get to the point in the third arc where he's like, oh no, I'm not that way anymore. I'm lighter now. Like, and I was like, oh good, I love this. To the point where
that's when I was like, okay, this is driving now. That's when it started to really
I totally agree. But I felt like he had this epiphany and we missed it. Like, it seemed like it happened off screen.
I think it did. I think it happened in another comic, because there's a moment where he talks about which, by the way, threw me. I had to try to remember for the life of me what it is he's referring to. But he says he went back to Gotham briefly. He has this conversation with Connor, and he fights his parents that are zombies. And
it's
realized
the Blackest Night. Yeah. So in Blackest, and this is the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. problem. Like, the show's got this good momentum, and then, hey, we have to have a movie that's just going to completely screw up your entire. Yeah. This is the problem with crossovers. Is in general, but it was the Blackest Night crossover, and he goes back to Gotham, and his dead parents are resurrected, and he has to fight the zombified parents, which is pretty messed up. And then there's another reference to one of the Infinite Crises where the anti-life equation got in his brain, and he was being made into, I think it was an OMAC, I don't know. It's like that was just dropped, where he's like, I totally agreed with the anti-life equation and all of its like awful, cynical thoughts. And like, okay, and then we just never spoke about that again.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I had a slightly different response to this than the two of you, it sounds like, because again, this is the thing that I feel like, despite all the retconning and the changing that has come, informs his character through current. Because I really do think this arc, yes, he's darker, but it made sense to me because of the grief and the level of like.
Yeah. It's not that it didn't work for me. It's just that I didn't.
Well, no, but I think it's important. I think because
like I wasn't having fun in that first half with him.
I don't think it's fun. I will agree, but I think the things, and this is going to be, if you haven't listened to the episode where David comes on Thirsty on Tune, you should, because there's a through line accidentally that I didn't mean to create. This is where we're going to talk about abandonment issues again, David.
Yay! It's a running theme with us.
It is a running theme with us. But so one of the things that has defined Tim since this era was this abandonment issues that started with Bruce dying, Dick kicking him out of Robin. And that has been a defining character trait. Like currently, the current Megan Fitzmartin's story is finally dealing with him processing how much that hurt him and how he's never felt comfortable and totally part of the family since it happened. And the Wayne Family Adventures, which is the webtoon, has been giving him the chance to have these conversations with Dick that he never had. Like Dick really wanting him to grow and be on his own, but not ever conveying that. And instead being like, I don't need you, basically. These scenes that we get, which hurt to read. I was like in pain.
It's hard not to hate Damien in these scenes because
like
we know he gets better, but I'm like, God,
like,
he really was so awful.
He's a little baby shithead. Yeah.
Is it I don't know how to pronounce. Is it the Fabian Nachiza? How do you?
I think it is.
So the Fabian N run that picks up after the Christopher Yost.
Yeah.
Damien attacks Tim, and Tim kicks his ass. And Dick is like, look, he just wants to be accepted. So Dick, it's annoying because like in that moment, Dick has the emotional intelligence to be, surrogate dad to Damien, but it's like, but you didn't afford Tim saying.
And I think I think it makes a lot of sense. Is again another through line. We talked a lot about brother relationships when we were talking about your book. I think it makes sense because for Dick, Tim is not the same relationship he has with Damien. I think he's better at parenting Damien, but Tim is not his kid, and he doesn't feel like his kid to him. And he has that moment in this where he is like, you are my equal, which I did have a moment of like, okay, but like, no, he is like, he's still a child.
But no.
I get what you're saying, Dick, but you're not thinking this through. He still has child brain to some degree, right? Like, but at that moment, I think Dick was so focused on Damien that he lost track of the fact that Tim is not his age and not his maturity and not where he is.
So I agree.
I think a lot of writers for comics would do well to study like young adult novels and how they vary from adult novels, because it really captures the mental differences through the way that you would handle Dick or Bruce versus Tim is so different. And then again, Damien coming at it from a middle grade place, even though he has all of his, Damien issues. I just the characterizations, like, and the art too in the first couple issues, like how he looks 30.
It's very gritty. I love how the art becomes in the second part of the arc, where it's all the flowy hair Tim that I love, and
he gets so pretty. He really does. But I feel like the grittiness in those first 5 issues, like it worked for me because he was, darker, and then the second volume kind of picks up and he's a little lighter.
I think it hits on this idea that some of the writers of these of the Batman comics get, which is that of all of his sons, Tim is the most like Bruce. Like, he has his actual biological son. His biological son is not nearly as like him as Tim is. So Batman, when he loses Jason, becomes obsessive and violent and dark. And when Tim loses Bruce, he becomes obsessive and violent and dark. And he has to find his way back. And I think there's this powerful moment when he, at the very end of this, like the 12th issue, when he has all of his allies come and they help him take it down, where he's like, here's the difference. I was lost in being Batman for a while, but I'm not him. I know how to have friends.
That was such a crucial moment.
God, it was so good.
I do love that. I feel like I've read that same exact theme in a couple other books recently for Batman, like sidekicks. And I'm like, this feels to be the theme for, I think, all the Robins, basically. But I'm not complaining because I do like it.
Well, I think it makes sense,
family.
right?
Found
Yeah.
family is always like such a sweet spot trope, in that whole sense that we can come together. And I just, man, I love it when Bruce realizes he's broken. And there's that really amazing issue. Sorry, my brain's like thinking in episodes.
Yeah.
In the New 52, where they're doing a photo shoot.
Yes.
And it's Bruce and all of his boys.
Yes.
And even Jason's there. And so for a second, like continuity and tensions are sort of suspended, and all the boys are in tuxes and they get a photo shoot with Bruce.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that moment's like, when Bruce can just kind of for just a second be a dad. And that, man, I loved that.
Oh, David, I'm gonna need you to read Wayne Family Adventures. It's on the Webtoon app. It's free. Yes. It's free. So you don't have to spend money on it, but it genuinely gets into all of this stuff. It's fully out of continuity. It's just a story about Bruce being a dad to his kids, and it's so cute.
I'll check it out.
So like you were talking about Tim becoming this way when he loses Bruce, like and the way I interpret it, and let me know if you did the same or differently, like it was kind of his breaking point where like he lost his parents and then he lost Connor, and was it Bart also at one point,
and then Dick kicks him out of a Robin,
right? And then Bruce dies. Like all this happening at the same time just seemed like it was too much for him to take.
I think so. And I think it's interesting because we have some fans of our show that like the older comics but haven't kept up with the newer ones, and so I've gotten comments before about how we talk about Tim, and they're like, but isn't Tim the lighthearted fun Robin? And I'm always like, oh, he was. And then this arc happened. But, I really do think like a lot of the stuff, again, that Megan Fitzmartin's dealing with, his insomnia and depression, his isolation, his tendency to feel abandoned, his, frankly, suicidal behavior throughout this comic that also comes up a lot in Detective Comics of late, all stems from this breaking point and then having to rebuild. But it's why I really love him. Like, this is why he's my Robin, is because he is the one, suffering from anxiety and depression, who is able to manage it and become a hero. And that's powerful to me.
Yeah, if you can come back to the light, because you have to be tested. And I love Poe Dameron. I love heroic characters who are just heroic, and are tested and never break. Leia, for example.
Oh, yes.
Wars. And that's why I got so frustrated when they're like, Poe Dameron was a drug runner. I'm like, he's the heir to Leia. That doesn't add up. But,
it doesn't add up at all. Also, let's not make our only Latinx character the drug runner, guys.
Thank you. But that said, for Tim, it does work better because there is the idea that you can't be part of Batman's world without the darkness seeping in.
Yeah.
So I will adjust my critique a bit on this. I think you've kind of talked me around a bit. That said, one of the things that bothered me was the speed. I would have slowed it down.
Yes.
Like 2 more issues, and I understand how trade works, and they had a timeline of when Bruce had to come back, so they couldn't, they didn't have forever to do this. But I think 2 more issues part of it's the length of how comics are now. They're so short. As opposed to when old me growing up, they were like twice as thick. You had so much more story going on. But I think it would have been interesting if they'd slowed down a notch, just to give us more quiet moments in between all those action chases.
I agree. Well, they could have super cut out a lot. We didn't need so much backstory for the Spider.
I'm tired. That was the weakest arc. That middle arc.
I don't sometimes I get the instinct, right? That we're establishing a new villain, so let's really get into it. But sometimes I beg DC writers, please just be like, here is bad guy, bad, and not have to we don't this character's not important. They're never going to be important. It's a Ra's al Ghul story. Why did we need a 5-page background for this character who then leaves?
Can we just get a female villain who's where there's no sexual assault?
God, right?
Backstory, like this little girl's going to be gang raped, and that's the implication when she gets her evil spider poison powers. And this is part of it that's just rooting for her. Yes, kill all the bad men, and to a degree where she's like, I'm going to kill all the assassins. That sounds like a fun thing to do. I'm like, okay, I'm at that. And if at some point it would have been nice for her to be like, Tim's not on the list. Like, he just got kind of caught up in this. If that had been clarified a little bit more, but Yeah, take out the League of Assassins. Sure, they're dicks.
Yeah, right. That was what frustrated me too at the very end, where she's like, "Well, I guess we'll hunt heroes now." Why? Why?
The spinoff. Did it ever happen? I don't know.
I don't know if it did either.
I've read issue 13 and 14, but I there is a cover that looks like her coming back later on.
See, I do want to read more because this is my second time reading these 12 issues, and I was like, you know what? I want to know what happens next, because like while issue 12 feels like a very solid ending to leave off on, there's those couple cliffhangers.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, like I want to know what happens next. And I loved what Yost did, but I want to see what the writer coming in does too.
The next arc.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the next arc, we get to have the exciting era in which teenage Tim Drake runs Wayne Enterprises, a real plot line that really does go for quite a while.
While being fake engaged. At least Tamara sticks around, is what I've read so far. That was nice. That just didn't get wiped out.
I gotta say, like, obviously Yost intended this to be a real romance, but like going back and reading it as baby bisexual Tim who has not awakened yet, I was like, yeah, that does feel like a great beard.
Well, when he's like he's swinging, he's like, she's so pretty, but I can't think about her right now. Like, I'm busy. And I was like, I don't think you like her as much as you think you like her.
He's like, I know this is what is conventionally attractive.
There's another character that is introduced, by the way, in issue 13, where it's the same thing. Like, she's hot. I'm like, oh my God, Tim. But that assassin guy who was like, intrigued by you. And I'm like, hey, why do we have to kill him off so quick? That could have gone places.
They had chemistry.
That was hot. I feel like we also have got to talk about Ra's al Ghul's deep obsession with theoretically at least a teenager.
Well,
I did find it interesting.
And also just being like, I need to breed you. Like, this is just like treat you like a stock animal. Like, it was
to breed you?
Yeah.
That has multiple meanings.
No, I think
I mean it in the sense.
Okay.
I want Tim to
be
all of my next demon grandbaby.
Yeah, I was like, do you want Tim to be the father of your next demon grandbaby? Because you've been acting like you just want him to be the father of your children this whole time, you weirdo.
Oh, see, I didn't read into like anything like
He's
that.
Creepy.
I know he is, but like I just read it as like when he calls him detective at one point, I was like, oh, that's cool that he like compares him to Batman in his mind and has that respect
maybe because
for him.
He has this weird like somewhat pseudo erotic relationship with Batman too, that when he like transfers that attention, I was like,
it's like when Jason sleeps with Talia.
And now Talia's supposed to go sleep with Tim. I'm like,
Jason's
just, is that her?
Boy.
That's her. Yeah, that's Talia.
We didn't see her face. I was like, please don't be Talia.
He only got the one daughter, TJ. I'm sorry. Unlike everyone else that has secret siblings.
Yeah, he's got one other because she was an Arrow.
I forget about her.
She was a lesbian in Arrow, though.
It's not her. It's not the lesbian.
I was kind of hoping it was Tamara. I was kind of hoping that the woman in the hood would end up being her.
That would be interesting.
And so this whole fake engagement thing was actually on purpose, that she and Tim could fall in love. That I would have liked. That's okay. That I would have been there for that double cross.
No, it had to be creepier than that, of course.
I felt like Tamara didn't add anything, and I hate to say it because I think she could be a really interesting character, but like she was just there to be the token girl love interest character, damsel in distress.
100%. And like speaking of continuity things, Lucius Fox's amount of children changes as plot needs. How many kids does he have now? It's getting ridiculous.
I had to Google.
I actually picked up on the fact that there was a nice little bit of vagueness around it.
Yeah.
About the fact that they're like, Lucy's kids. I'm like,
his litter.
It's just Jace and Luke and Tam and God,
Tiffany.
Thank you, Tiffany.
She was the one in the Telltale video game.
There's another one.
I had to be like, oh, was Tamara the one in the Telltale game? And I was like, no, that was a different child. Okay.
Different. His amount of children vastly changes based on the writer.
Just stop introducing new ones.
So I felt like she didn't serve a point. I feel like we could have used the page time we gave her, especially in the first half, to do other things, like actually show Tim discovering things that indicated Bruce was alive.
I think there's if we're talking about like this comic has spawned off so many conversations already about the whole of Tim mythos. They are constantly trying to give him his own sidekicks, and none of them stick. Like ever.
I like Prudence. I wish she would stick around
too. I wish she would come back too.
You know what? I would have gone with the archaeology thing. Like that that could have worked for me well. I didn't need the German dude. That was strange. But I would have really got like the idea that Tim is traveling around the world playing Indiana Jones.
Yes, love it.
And finding artifacts to prove the trail. That was like, yes, more of that. Like that. I kind of enjoyed that angle, but then we got all caught up in the funky spider people and then asked
wasn't necessary. Wasn't necessary.
I like Prudence. The whole time I was like, where is she now? Why is she not in the current Robin run?
I was gonna say, because she's kind of a fun friend for him, I think. Like,
yeah, I like that she's more his equal. She's more of a peer than Damian, but I feel like she has the Damian vibe.
Yeah.
That I feel like they could be good counters to each other.
Yeah.
Oh, how cool was it that we got Stephanie as Batgirl? Because I love that run. I really loved Stephanie as Batgirl. I felt it was a natural progression of her coming into her own.
Yeah.
I was really unhappy that it didn't last longer. I love the costume. Stephanie as Batgirl is one of my favorite things that ever happened. And so I was really pleased to see her crossing over. Now I want to go find that issue.
I know. Oh,
I read the one where it's like that crossover issue. I did read that, and he is such a dick to her. Like he was in his own book.
He apologizes for it.
But like in her issue though, from her perspective, he's even worse. And it's so weird because it happens immediately after he's like, "Oh, I've changed. I'm lighter hearted now." And then it goes into the Batgirl issue, and it's like, "Oh, they did not keep up with that." Like character arc there.
I wonder if they were written simultaneously, so they didn't
probably. And just like the issue where he goes to talk to Connor and sees Connor for the first time, that is referenced in this book, like also does not line up with his character arc, because it's like
he at least called that out and said, "I'm in a better place than I was in Paris." Like he did.
Right. They do address it.
A lantern on it, you know.
And it is so out of character though, because literally Connor shows up and he's like, "Hey, why aren't you answering your phone?" And Tim basically is just like, "Because I didn't want to." It's like, what? It's just so out of character. And again, I think it's because we're focusing on the other character, so like we're in Connor's point of view, so it has to serve as Connor, just like in the Batgirl issue it has to serve as Stephanie, so he's made out to be even worse than he is in his own book.
Well, I think the thing with that is when you're reading a Tim story, you are in his head so much that you understand, like, okay, he says this, but here's what he's feeling. So it makes sense to me that if you were outside of that looking in and you don't have all of that, some of the time he sounds like a real dick because there's a whole conversation and you're privy to this much of it.
Well, the Connor issue is I was almost unforgivable because like the scenes with them are so good, I have to say, in the Action Comics issue. But when it was like, no, like he didn't answer the phone, he didn't want to see Connor, I'm like, what are you talking about? He literally was just saying, will I see Connor when I die? I hope so. I'm like, come on, like what's going on?
When he hugged him in this,
that was so cute. It felt like they couldn't do these beats in that Connor issue because they had to save it for the Tim series, which is probably the case.
Yeah,
right, it's probably the case. But I inferred, they hint at one point that like that because when you see Tim in this Connor issue, he's even darker than he was at his darkest in this series, which I thought was interesting. And I was like, well, why is he so dark in this issue? Like, what is going on? And I inferred from like little things that were said, like my headcanon is when he found out Connor was alive, even though they hadn't seen each other, he realized he had failed Connor and he does say, I failed you. I'm not going to do that to Bruce. So I was like, oh, when he found out he was alive, he doubled down on that mission and just focused on Bruce and like was neglecting Connor being back basically. So
he slept with Cassie, right? So there was the whole dating Cassie while you're dead thing. So there was some awkward there.
And they do talk about that it's a great issue. Action Comics issue 3. It is so good. It's the one with Tim and Connor on the cover. I actually wrote a little summary.
Oh my god, yeah, hit us with it, please.
Where did I put it? All right, so just to catch you up, Connor came back to life and hunted Tim down before this in Paris, right by the Eiffel Tower, which was very romantic by the way. Tim may have been dark still, but he was uncharacteristically numb at seeing Connor. They didn't hug, not even a hi, good to see you. He starts with, you could have called. And then it's revealed that Tim didn't even answer the phone Obviously, there was lack of communication between the two book narratives going on here. I'm not even sure when this takes place during Red Robin. It's kind of weird.
Well, it's confusing. Yeah, not gonna lie.
Because obviously Tim would have been happier and more open to seeing Connor, even with his baggage. So I'm glad Red Robin addresses that, although it is implied that Tim is ashamed he gave up on Connor, accepting him dead, and it makes him double down on his mission for Bruce even more self-harmfully. Other noteworthy bits, Connor wants Tim to take the cowl off because he's not a cowl guy. Tim reveals he tried to clone Connor because he couldn't live without him and cries.
Gayest thing ever happened.
The fanfic just writes
right. It's so fanficky. And Tim says, there's this moment where they're just sitting next to each other, and Tim says, Bruce is alive, and Connor just says, I believe you. And it's like an unconditional, without hesitation. There's like so much love there, and it was so gay that the book had to say no homo basically immediately after that panel where they're like friends. Anyway, that is my catch up for you before we talk about their scenes in this book.
I am glad though that so I will say this, as much as I have my ships, I actually do like it when bi guys and gay guys can be friends with straight guys, and I like it when the straight guys can be affectionate with them, absolutely. Say I love you, and that's something I really love seeing in our media, is that kind of toxic masculinity is fading. You know, yes. The fact that it also it shows a different level of acceptance. You know, when my straight guy friends can hug me and say I love you without there being anything to that, or them thinking I'm going to, you know, be in love with them or have an emotional thing about it from a romantic side. So I do really. I'm always hesitant when I there's like a deep friendship that I often don't want it to become a ship, because I want it to be like that. I want more of that expression.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And like, I value the friendship between those characters just as much as the romance, I think. And like, you know, the romance isn't guaranteed. So I'm just taking what we're being given. And I would love to have that storyline of them like having a heart to heart. And even if Connor's straight, like, I agree with you. It would be so nice to have that, like, that aspect of their relationship too.
Yeah.
Because Cullen is endgame, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Oh, you have your own motive here.
I do. I love Cullen.
I take it back.
The fact that Cullen geeks out over Midnighter. There's a gay Batman. Like,
greatest thing ever. Cullen, forever. We love him. I guess he's wherever they stick Harper these days. They're always shoved in some corner of DC Comics.
DC, when next time you need a writer for these characters, just call me. Call my agent.
Give David R. Slayton a Cullen like series. Like, it could be like the Jimmy Olsen series, but for Cullen.
I would totally do a full Zeppo run where Cullen is like running around the background and has no powers or utility belt or anything, and just trying to get from A to Z, and then all this bat shit just keeps getting in his way, and he's like, okay, fine, and then he just has to go fix that or go deal with this, and no one ever even knows, you know, and all he gets at the end of the day is a cookie from Alfred. It's just like,
that would be so fun.
Oh my gosh, on board.
You're skipping to, we always have an exit question where we're like, if you could tell a story, what would it be? I feel like you just answered that.
Exactly.
And I love it.
The good news is I have a million more in my crazy jukebox brain,
good.
So. Sorry,
that's your plan B. No,
I'm all about skipping the agenda today. I'm all about getting.
I love it. You're like,
we didn't give you the agenda, so that's on us.
It's true.
I feel like there's so many good moments in this book. Yeah. Like, when you think of, do you have anything that comes to mind?
Boy, did I just screenshot
me too. Me too.
Oh God, there's a lot. I'll let you two go first while I skim through them.
Mine are, I've already kind of named them: the Connor hug, the Stephanie apology, where she's like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "Yes, thank you."
Fair.
I do like the way it kicked off. I'm like, I believe it if no one else does. I liked the archaeology. Wish it had gone on more, but still like what we got. And I liked that. I liked all those things. I liked sparring with Damien. I always do that wrong. And then and I liked the positive interactions with Dick. I particularly like how it ended, how Tim's trump card was teamwork. And again, I'm not Batman. I have these people, including super powered ones, so I'm not afraid to use them.
Yeah, I agree.
He's like, he says, I knew you would always have my back. And it's like, did you though? Because he literally kicked you out.
But I think
Robin. You know, I get it, but I'm like, did you though? But it's very
Brothers
sweet.
fight.
I think it's that, like, look, you hurt me, but I know that when the chips are down, you're going to save me.
Yeah.
And that is very much a like Bat family through line. There is a very like a probably callback, honestly, scene between Tim and Jason later in the New 52, where TJ, I think we read that one, the Death in the Family one. Do you remember that one?
What are we talking about?
Just the blank stare that happened.
He went to his Connor Tim place.
I remember here daydreaming.
I'm not going to edit out any of that long pause. No, there's a scene in where, you know, Joker in that series is manipulating everything, and he's like trying to pull all the pieces apart between every member of the family so that Bruce is isolated, but he tries to pit Jason and Tim against each other, and they play that it works. They have this whole like, it works, they're fighting, whatever, but at the end they switch it up and obviously use it to defeat Joker. And Jason is like, how did you know that I wouldn't actually attack you? And it's that exact line again where he's, you know, when the chips are down, I knew you were my family. And I love those moments.
Yeah,
they make me cry.
I think in terms of the writing, I just like, I don't know if I would call it quippiness, but like the wit. Like there's one part where Tamara's like, oh, you know, I feel really safe with Tim around, and immediately in the same panel, Tim's like, she's going to die. Like just like the hard cuts like that were very funny.
Lord, I do. Yeah, this is also the origin of Tim Drake's solution to everything from like massive crisis to a head cold is, I guess I'll die now.
Yeah. When he's like bleeding out and he's like, Batman would have gone to a Zen meditation state and planned his next 14 moves. I'm just bleeding out. Like that was really good. That's a good moment.
I know.
And when Prudence says he's bloody sexy, that made me laugh. That was camp. Loved
that was very funny. That was the first moment though where I was like, how old is he?
Right.
Oh, when he's teasing her, I'm sorry, I broke your nose in 2 places. I guess that's not new to you. Like, damn.
I actually love, I will say, I wish we had gotten more, but like, I wish they hadn't died the first issue. They're all together because I really loved the banter between, like, these are 3 League of Assassin ninjas. And usually we see them as these silent things all the time, but we actually get in the car with them and they're like, remember that one time that you thought the guy was pale because he was dying? And then he punched you in the face. I was like,
which was a nice call out to the White Spider showing up later. Yeah, like, that was well done.
I just really enjoy the League of Assassins. They're just like us.
Yeah, I could have done with more of them.
If I ever get to write Tim, those 3 are going to show up on his door, and he's like, "I thought 2 of you were dead." I'm like, "Come with us. We don't have time to explain." Like that'll be the hook. That'll be the
inside. We just got rolled right into the Lazarus pit. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, like with the continuity, it's like, what version of events really happened anyway from this series? Who knows? Maybe they're fine.
We're approaching a Donna Troy level event here.
It's truly, truly.
The line where Tim is like, Dr. Midnight is going to find me and beat me up. I think I could take him. Like, just some of the writing, like, I think it was really cute, especially once Tim had this epiphany off panel where he got lighter again. Like, I love this arc. I think this is a more character-driven book than a plot-driven book. Mm-hmm. So, like, or at least what I find interesting in it. But I feel like I really wanted to see more of him earning this emotional revelation.
Yeah.
That feels like we missed maybe in another book.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a way. It's so hard, right? Because it's a continuity problem that it's in another continuity that this happens, or another, like, you know. Right. But I wonder if there was a way that they could have. I know other times when that's happened, they've either like slotted in the issue into the volume so that you have it and then it makes sense, or they've done like a full flashback so you get the parts you need. Because they do that in when we read Batman Eternal, they periodically do that where they're like, remember that time, because we know you didn't read it. So
well, it's like in the Connor issue, it's all about Tim is going after a boom tube to try to find Bruce, and Connor helps him get it. But it's like, it feels like a lot more has happened since then, though. And I'm like, when, what happened that made you feel so relieved that you now smile?
Mm-hmm. He just looked into Connor's beautiful eyes, and now he's just smiles.
Well, apparently that wasn't enough because he was mad the first time.
Well, see, and that's what I would have, again, writer brain, I would have put, like, when Connor showed up, without, take the Paris thing out like it didn't happen, have Connor show up in that moment and Tim hugging him. For me, that would have been the moment when the dam broke and things.
Yes, exactly.
People can come back. You came back, and he does say, like, Bart came back first, so he's already lightened the load. Like, some of that load has been lightened, but again, that's the moment for me.
Yeah,
like, I hit the rooftop. There's somebody there, and then it turns around and he sees him in the light, and it's Connor. Like that gives you your nice romantic bit.
Yeah,
and also to me, that would be the moment when Tim's emotional pivot.
I think so. Totally. I think that makes sense.
Totally agree. Narratively wise, I think that's like the cleanest path. And like the arc we got in this Connor issue was very messy and unexpected. But I did kind of reconcile some of the things they did. And the scenes are beautiful. David, when you read it, you're gonna have to tell me what you think.
Yeah.
Very well done.
I want to be clear. I really did like this. I just wanted to slow it down by 2 issues or so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. Like, there's like a lot of things that I have like one more that just occurred to me, which is, why is it dark and gritty, but Tim says fudge?
And when he smacks Prudence, is like, well, at least she didn't get to cuss. Like,
I was like, who are you, Captain America? What's happening?
This is a very Steve Rogers kind of moment. Like, oh,
I know it doesn't feel like him at all. It was, and I get, like, obviously they can't curse in the comic, but why do it at all then? It made no sense. He's like, literally, this guy gets cut in half in front of him, and he's like, fudge.
Did you ever see that movie Boys on the Side?
No.
Okay, I'm not recommending it, but there's this really important moment where the very prim and proper character, she learns to embrace the C word. And so when she first finds the C word and finds herself able to use it, she just runs around the house repeating it and then screaming it, because it's like this whole freedom thing. It would have been a very nice moment for Tim to be like, wait, Bruce isn't around anymore. I can say the F-bomb. Like, that would have been cool. Like, for Tim to be like, if I'm going to go dark, I might as well try off some, try some F-bombs in here.
I would love that. And it's not Bruce that cares. It's Alfred, right? It's gotta be.
Oh, Alfred had a couple good moments in this when he like dissed Vicky Vale. And he was like, oh, I was talking about the dog.
That was great.
So much shade.
I loved when she knocks on the door and she's like, I'm looking for Tim. And he's like, isn't he a little young for you?
Yep. That was such a good scene.
I love sassy Alfred.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about the whole Hush storyline.
Yeah.
Like, I completely forgot who Bruce Wayne was in this.
I did too. I was like, who was pretending to be Bruce right now? I was struggling, but I was like, it's somebody.
Once they said Mr. Elliot, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
I do love the plot line that Thomas Elliot, is that what his name is? That he looks identical to Bruce Wayne for no reason is one of my favorite ridiculous plot lines.
No, it's a thing. It's part of the
he edited his
face. I know, but like, he also looked like him before that too. But yes, that's just a
after the gig is up. Why didn't you go back to your own face? I'm very confused.
Right.
And let's not forget the almost fake brotherness that happened for a minute there, but it was okay. He wasn't really his brother.
Yeah. That happens a lot.
The amount of people who have pretended to be a Wayne is very entertaining to me.
Well, and I got confused too when the guy showed up, Z, when he showed up in Iraq and was like, didn't he pose as a fox? Didn't he give?
Yes, he did.
I was like, oh my god, how many kids does Lucius have?
I would love if there was just a twist that he was Lucius's son, the one that went rogue and joined the League of Assassins.
I think Ross is like, we found one of those too. We had a Wayne, so we decided to grow a few foxes in the vats while we were
just in case. Like, we're working on our Pennyworth. It's coming along.
That's hysterical.
I have to go back to Tamara. Like, I keep thinking about how I wish she would have added something to this storyline.
Well, she felt like a classic Bruce Wayne girl, right?
Yes.
Like, oh God. In all the old comics where they try to give Bruce Wayne a girlfriend for a hot minute, it's the exact same thing where, when you give someone a girlfriend, that just makes them seem less straight.
Right.
There's also a very weird characterization with her where there's that moment where she's like, I took all the self-defense and I know Krav Maga, but then I smacked a guy in the face with the sword, but he's not bleeding because whatever. But then I squeal and run away, which like, give her that or don't. Like, don't in or out.
I'm wondering how much personality she had before this run, or how often she was featured.
I think this might be it. I think she was introduced.
Right. Because like once they introduce, because again, we don't care. Just like the villains that are like just there, the spider people, like I don't really care about them. I'm here for the characters. I care about like Tim. And then in the second volume, we get Stephanie back and we get Connor back.
And it was better.
Right. So it's like, why is she here? And then we kept cutting to her and Vicky. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't care. And we have Stephanie and Connor both serving.
I will say Tamara had one purpose, and that was to make Vicky Vale look like a full character in comparison.
I also just have to be amused by the fact that I would love for Bernard to be invited to like lunch with all of Tim's girlfriends.
Yes.
Because there's Cassandra. Like he slept with Cassandra Cain, Batgirl. He slept with Stephanie and Wonder Girl. Like there's got to be like a whole like, you know. Brunch
like Scott Pilgrim, but Bernard.
Yeah. There's a couple.
But if they have like a really bad fight and then Bernard has to like have the support group of Tim's exes.
I love it. Oh God.
He met Stephanie so far. Now we got to get the rest. That would
Bernard
be really
met
fun.
Stephanie. Yeah, they were cute. It would be
Can we throw Connor in there too?
Just for TJ.
Yeah. Okay, this is what I'm going to bring up my X Factor Peter David thing. Is that when we get this scene in this book where they reunite once again, and they were just flirting so hard. Like he's like, your face wasn't great to begin with. Why are you so happy? Sail on leather. Like just so I know this is like friendly banter, but I'm reading into it and I'm like, oh my God, they're flirting. And knowing that Tim was
actually
like
had a crush on
him. Knowing, inferring it then, and now knowing now, you know, kind of, even though it's different continuities, like Tim was into it. So like, I'm like, so when he is watching him fly away and he's like, I just want to live in this moment for a little bit longer. Like, and he says, if you need me, just yell, I'll hear you. And he says, I know you will. And thanks for what? For believing in me. I'm like, they're saying I love you, but not saying I love you. And again, it could be friend love, but we know from Tim's side, it was not probably. Where was I going with this? Peter David.
You went to your happy place.
Yes, sorry. So in this scene, I was thinking like, they've already retconned Tim having feelings for Connor now. And I'm like, are they going to retcon that even if they don't get together in current continuity, like maybe they're going to retcon that they did have a thing in the past and just neither of them, or maybe, you know, I don't know, but Tim's journey seems to be like, he didn't know at the time that he was bi, even if they were doing something. Like maybe they slept together a couple times. Maybe they were secretly dating, but it wasn't really, you know, I'm not gay though. Like, so I don't know. I was like, maybe they'll do a retcon kind of how Peter David did.
That's very cute.
I'm like, that's what I want. Even if they don't end up together and they just are friends now.
I would like one of those like classic rom-com moments where it's like, no, we never dated. We just went to movies and we had dinner together. Exactly. And, you know, it's not like, I don't know that I would go so far as to be like, we banged, but like to go, like they clearly like, because who as a queer person that came out later in life, like myself, didn't have those moments where you look back at a relationship or like, yeah, there was no hetero explanation for that relationship I had.
Yeah.
We both thought it was.
Though. I mean, so I think it was Fabian who was writing the X Factor run where they changed writers. Sorry, my cat has decided that it's food time.
Oh, you're okay.
But one of the he was going there, and I was reading X Factor at the time, and then when the writer changed, and the writer was clearly moving Shatterstar and Richter in that direction. Shatterstar interrupted a guy, saved him from being gay bashed. Like they were clearly building to this, but with them. And then when Richter leaves for South America, Shatterstar is just devastated and he's putting his fingers to the glasses. Like it was very clearly queer coded. And the writer said that's where he wanted to go.
Right. They've
been building to it. And then the writers changed and they totally. So I'd like that Peter David picked up that thread.
Right. I see your point is that it wasn't intended for.
Yeah. It's not a I just want to be clear. It was not a retcon. It was definitely something that got and then grabbed again. But I don't know. It's funny with the Connor thing because I don't know. I have that thing where I've had crushes on straight guys especially when I was young. And I was the only gay guy around, and having crushes on straight guys could be so devastating and confusing with friendships. That'd be
for sure.
And I also had a lot of guys who wanted to experiment. They wanted to be like, oh, well, maybe I am bi or maybe I am gay. So you're going to be the one person to experiment with, but I don't want a relationship or anything. So as soon as I'm done kissing you, you're never going to hear, I'm going to ghost you. And that hurts so much. So I don't want that to have been something that happened to them. If it does happen, I think it would be cool if Connor came there and said, okay, now I'm ready. Like, it'd be fun if they had kind of a, like, but no, I'm still with Bernard. I'm like, oh, the window's not open.
Like ships passing in the night. That's like how I see it.
That's the
most
I'm like,
painful. Oh, Tim's come out, but in terms of like real world, it's like, oh, but John just came out. So it's like, Connor, it's not the right time for Connor to come out now.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because I've had guys like that in my life where I'm like, he's like, I'm single. I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah. Oh God.
Next time I'm single, I'll call, but you'll probably be
right.
And like, I want to say like, oh, I can be content with them just being friends, and like I see the value in that, whether Connor is queer or not. But then I read these scenes, especially the one in this book, and I'm like, that's the love of his life. They have to be endgame. Like, I don't know. Colin. I know, right? Make that happen, and then I'll compare them.
Yeah.
No, here's what'll happen. Here's how we'll handle it in the long term.
Please.
Bernard and Tim will eventually break up.
Oh
after Connor's confession, but something happens and Bernard's like, I just can't date a superhero anymore. I need a normal guy. It's being kidnapped every other week is getting annoying. It's hell in my hair. And then Tim, heartbroken, but Connor and he finally figure it out.
Yeah.
And then Cullen runs into Bernard and is like, and then because he wants a normal boy. And so there.
Yes.
Oh, I like it.
See, I like that too.
That's cute.
So I don't know how I feel about Bernard breaking up with Tim though. I'm like, no, Tim should break up with you.
I think there's so little chance that it's going to go that way. I think Bernard's going to break up with him. Let's be honest.
Or it could happen off panel. He'll just stop showing up one day.
Like him and Stephanie Brown.
The writer will change and suddenly it'll just be like tomorrow. Like, he's in the pit with tomorrow. Like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
Oh, we threw him in the love interest pit.
He's at the brunch of lost relationship. Tim Drake's wrecked relationships.
The brunch of Tim's wrecked relationships sounds like a fanfic title that I would read.
It's kind of like the funeral for Hercules that happened in Marvel, and then North Star showed up because they had a moment of all the people who'd slept with Hercules, and North Star showed up. That was
so good.
Oh my god, I ship Novar and Hercules right now so much. I don't know if are you following them at all?
Al Ewing has done some fun stuff.
Yes. Yeah, they're his twonk boyfriend. Love it.
So some of the parts that I really liked in this were this like quiet flashback moments we get to before he leaves Gotham, because of course we all want him just to be back in Gotham. So every time they flash back to him back in Gotham, it was like really great. There's one scene with him and Cassie as they're talking at like Bruce's grave, which is very many ways like a great scene and very emotional, but it has this moment which I screenshotted because I wanted to be like, what was that about? Where she's like, what happens when Robin needs a Robin? A thing that does not come back, and he does not get a sidekick. So what is that supposed to mean?
Right.
Was there a plan? Like, was somebody going to be like, oh, we're going to give him a sidekick, and then it just didn't happen, and this like foreshadowing just exists in a void now? Like, what is that?
I think it's the problem that Tim doesn't need a sidekick. I think
I agree.
I think obviously Tamara, it was going to be grafted on him to a degree because she's the fish out of the water. She doesn't know this world. She's the new person, much like Tim was when he figured out who Bruce was. But I don't know. There is a theme there where he says, I think Tim reflects it, where he's like, what is Robin? What is a Robin without a Batman?
Yeah.
And
it's interesting.
It's giving me Rick and Morty. Like, what's a Morty without a Rick?
Yeah. And I think, it kind of ties to him without Bruce being the same as Bruce was without Jason. But then, like I said, they have this line that, okay, so you need your own Robin. And then, no, it just went nowhere. So
And I kind of got the sense Prudence was going there.
Yeah, and I would have liked that. I was on board. I was like, give her a costume, let her get in there. I enjoyed her way more than Tamara, like genuinely. I thought she had personality. She was funny. I liked her.
There wasn't a love interest, which was nice. They didn't make out. I also think it would have been really fun if Prudence had been like younger, like made her a counter to Damien. So when Tim is having a whole like, what is with this evil psychotic brat? Oh wait, I have my own evil psychotic brat.
Yeah, I like that. Then they could banter with each other while Tim and Dick talk. I think that'd be great.
Yeah. No, I think she's the perfect
foil. She'll come back and she'll be 12 because apparently ages don't matter.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She's now younger than him. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, no matter the age, I'm all for her.
And nobody in the Wayne household really has ever dealt with the true terror of a teen girl.
Yeah. That's true.
Alfred thinks Damien's bad, but man, my sister would have made him look like a cupcake, you know?
And Stephanie was always so happy and upbeat. They didn't really get to experience the dark days of oh God. Yeah. So I think one of the things that I loved about this, but then wanted so much more of, was when they hit that dynamic where it's like Tim and Prue, and then Raish is in his ear, and he has that moment where he's like, Raish is the butler of the damned. Love that line. And I was like, this is what I want the rest of the run to be. Like, it went away so fast, but I wanted it to be like this weird tension of Raish being his guy in the chair and Prue being his. I thought that would have been so fun, and it was literally like 5 panels and then it was over. I was like, no, I like this. Which, again, it was something I had forgotten was that short, because if we're going to talk fandom again, that's the thing the fandom grabs onto and writes into the fics, and it seems like it's much longer in the fandom. They're like, hey, they did this together and that together, and they had this whole thing, and it makes so much sense that I forget when I go back. I was like, oh, it was like 5 panels long.
That would be so cool too. Like, again, I would love the idea that I'm going to give you all the resources, but they're evil resources.
Yes.
Like, that the hero being handled powered, but it's corrupted, is always such a fun trope to play with, because you have all of our databases and all of our stuff, but Tim's like, oh crap, they are actually assassins. They are taking hits for money.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I really do like the tension of when he is working with them, where he's like trying to use their resources but keep people alive, and it's this tension of doing the thing in the moment while simultaneously managing his own people to not kill them. It was really great. Like, I loved it.
Yeah, I really feel like the spider storyline sidetracked everything that we wanted, because having all those issues, have it be Tim going around looking for things to try to bring Bruce back, evidence, and having Prudence maybe even keep the guys from the beginning and keep Raish in his ear, like as his Alfred. That would have been such a good middle arc. And just end up at the same place, going back to Gotham for the final showdown. But
and have it be more like have more continuity. Maybe that the whole thing of fighting the spiders or whatever is just Raish testing him, because we get that oh, I've seen it, but what if it was just Raish doing it? You know what I mean? Because Raish 100% would just let a bunch of his assassins die to test him. So I could absolutely see it be like, who's not done their quota this month? Send them in.
I'm going to need your annual performance reviews, and anyone who had exceeds expectations, send them to Iraq, please.
Yeah. And then, have the reveal at the end, Tim's been doing all this, and maybe I'm like writing a whole new story now, but maybe he has to rush because he thinks he's going to save Raish's life, but he gets there and Raish is like, oh, I've never been in danger. These were my guys all along.
Oh my goodness. That'd be a good twist.
I want the story of the evil human resources manager now, or the person who has to be HR mitigation for that organization.
Did you guys catch the line about Tim is going through all their info and he's like, the league doesn't pay taxes? Gross.
No, I think they did. Didn't it say they do pay taxes? Like,
no, they don't.
He says, and they don't pay taxes. Like, that was a big reveal after finding out.
It was so funny.
I was like, Tim, Bruce doesn't pay taxes. Let's be honest. There is 0%. He's got money in the Caymans. He's like, this man is not paying
anymore. Tommy Elliott has spent that.
I love that Thomas Elliott's evil plan was to slowly bankrupt him by being a reckless philanthropist.
That was his long game.
What are you doing? Oh yeah, we have to swing back around to 18-year-old CEO boss baby
Oh, Damien.
Tim is
No,
the CEO.
Tim.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you said Damien.
Well, at
Because
least
at the
he
end when he
kicks
was
it
like,
off. So in issue 13, he does like Tamara's like, but you're keeping my dad around. He's like, yeah, he's gonna do this. I'm just the face.
Yeah.
Like Tim at least has a brain moment of like, yeah, I shouldn't be running a multi-million-dollar
Oh, which is good. But I do love that he's just like, Bruce set it up so that his middle child, not his oldest, his middle child takes over, even as a face. And I'm like, that's so weird.
Should have gone to Jason. We should just give Jason all the money. That would have been the right answer.
Yeah, exactly. In this era where Jason is still running around with a pill on his head.
Would it have been funny if Bruce was like, oh shit, I should have updated my will like before it gets disintegrated or whatever. And then
he's like,
back to the caveman.
you know, I didn't even think about it because Jason was dead. I forgot that it goes to him first.
That's what we need. We need like a She-Hulk style court battle between Jason and Damien and all the boys fighting over the money. That would be like
hilarious. Oh my god.
Well, how did you guys feel about like the final page, that full circle moment, going back to Tim in the hallway after his tantrum and he sees the portrait of Bruce in the past?
Oh, love it. I love it. I love reveals like that.
It took me a second.
Yeah.
That was well done.
I do love that.
Like, okay, that sinks.
Yeah, I do love the whole the Batman plotline that this is when he's running around the old like Wild West Batman for a while. It was such a wild story.
And like in terms of what this meant for Tim in the book, like even as a reader, the whole time I was like, yeah, but like what made you believe he was alive? Like, you know,
but I didn't like he has that, but I like that he actually talks about it at one point. He's like, there's clues, but in the end it was faith. Like he just believed it.
Yeah.
And he admits that because I think up until then, every time someone pushes back, he's like, no, it's definite. But eventually he admits to himself, he's like, no, I believed it. And so I pursued it, which I think is very Tim. Like that's very him.
Yeah, I kind of wanted more of that detective though. I kind of wanted them to like, look, evidence, like I'm gathering evidence. And that was the other thing that kind of bugged me is he finally gets hard proof and then he sits on it for like the next 6 issues because, you know, I've got to go deal with stuff.
I know. I was getting so stressed out by the ticking time bomb that he kept mentioning. He's like, if I died, no one will know. And I'm like, yeah, Tim, you should have done something about that.
You got Oracle on speed dial. She can then get into any museum database in 5 seconds and correlate.
And he hacked into the Bat computer already. I would have loved one of the reveals to be like panning to Dick and Damien, and suddenly on the Bat computer it just pops up the evidence, and it's like, you're welcome, Tim. You know.
Yeah, because at the end he's like, oh, I have evidence, let's go look at it. And I'm like, yeah, but what evidence do you have? We don't know.
I will confess, I did like him. He has the evidence and he's still like, will you believe me, before he shows it. And I was like, yeah, make him say it. After everything he's put you through, make him say he believes you and then be like, okay, here's concrete proof. That's the petty you got from Bruce.
Surprise, here's the portrait. They did that to us as readers.
I know. I see the pettiness that was raised into you by being raised by Bruce Wayne.
Therapy. They all need so much therapy.
They do talk about therapy a lot.
I know. I like that we talked about therapy.
He's like, I really could use therapy for many reasons. Yes.
And Dick is like, I want you to talk to a therapist. I'm just going to punch you for saying that. Like, that was the most Bruce thing in the universe.
It was. It's true. Well, let's be honest. Dick did not approach that super well. He really. It makes sense with Bruce. I mean, with Dick's current arc too, because he is struggling trying to be Bruce and trying to raise Damien, and he's in this place where, if I'm right with the timeline in the comics, where he, you know, he's the main character, he has the arc of having to realize he can't be Bruce, he has to be Dick as Batman. So I feel like this slots in before that. So he's still kind of Brucing it up a bit and just not, you know, not using the emotional intelligence that we know him for. So.
I think you're right exactly where this lands in that spectrum. That was a weird, strange era of Dick as Batman, and that Justice League period was so much fun with Donna and Dick, and it was just very different and strange.
It was, and I love it. Oh, good times.
All right. Well, what would we rate this book? 1 out of 5 batarangs.
Even with all the problems and knowing I'm being a bit hypocritical, I'm going to give it 5 because I loved it. 5 out of 5. I know in my head, I know it's a 4. I know it's a 4, but I can't lower it. It's a 5.
It was good.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it 4. Similar. I kind of want to give it 3 because there are just some narrative things, but this is the problem is as a writer, I have to be like, this is not my story. I didn't write it. Right. I would definitely make different choices. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to give it a 4 because I love Tim. It's a great story. It's got some great one-liners and throwaway lines that are awesome. And I loved so much of it. So yeah, I'll give it a 4 as well.
I like it.
I'm also going to give it a 4.
Yeah.
Like, I would say the first volume, maybe like 3.5, 4. Second one, probably like 4.5, maybe a 5. I liked the
average out. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, TJ. I feel like it got stronger by the end enough that it averages to a 4.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the ending was very strong.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely like the second half better. The first issue and the second half. Yeah,
totally agree.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just can't lower it because it's my Tim story from my childhood, so it's gonna stay 5 in my head.
No, I get that.
I feel old.
We've established that I'm a baby. He's even younger than me, babies. So yeah.
And we can announce now, as of now, we should be talking to the illustrator Marcus very soon.
Yes.
So we'll be picking his brain. I really want to talk about how he feels about the TimCon stuff looking back.
And I want to hear him.
Do you know for certain it's Marcus Toe? And I've been saying too all night.
No.
We haven't talked to him yet, so we don't know.
No, I'm not sure. I even did research where I looked up interviews on YouTube and no one would say his last name. They would just say, here's Marcus. So I'm like, is it Toe or Toe? I'm not sure. That will be
ask him.
Question number 1.
Just email him. But I tell him, huge fan, love his
absolutely
phenomenal work.
I'm probably going to ask him 5 to 7 questions about Tim's hair and nothing else.
He really draws them so pretty. And oh my gosh, he drew the Jason Todd flashbacks in Batman Urban Legends.
Yes, they're so good.
One of my favorite stories recently.
Yeah.
Well, Tim just really looked like Tim in his. He went back to earlier portrayals and they just really lined up. Yeah, I really love his art style. I just also love the clean pencils and the way he portrayed, and just very vibrant. Again, his Stephanie was just awesome, like all of it.
I also liked how he took the Council of Spiders and they just look like they should be in the Hellfire Club now, which I like when they went into his art. Their costumes are very Emma Frost, and I was like, I like it.
Emma.
Yeah, give more villain slutty costumes. That's my stand.
Not the Council of Spiders. The Council of Slutty Spiders. Thank you.
They're just slutty little spiders. So you've already told us one story, but we always ask our guests, if you were in charge of writing one Batman story and editing cannot stop you or hold you back, what would you write?
Dang, it's really hard to top because I've already told you.
Yeah. So we have your call-in pitch, but like, what's your next pitch?
My next pitch would be, because my like go-to comic that I want to write is either an X-Men story or a Wonder Woman story. So Batman's not actually my first choice in many ways, but
I kind of want to know what your Wonder Woman is too, actually, if you want to tell
the Wonder Woman I have on the tip of my brain, so I'll do that and buy myself a second. The Wonder Woman would be, I'd write like Assassin's Creed Odyssey style. She goes back to ancient Greece and has to do an Odyssey, but I would kind of use stuff like I did in Debut Druid, where I would definitely make it an Odyssey with mythological monsters and magic. And as Diana has to find her way back to the present and to her sisterhood. And Diana's one of my favorites because, again, she's heroic. Mm-hmm. She doesn't kill her enemies. She tries to redeem them, all of those things. That bought me enough time to think of what I would do with Tim. I don't know where Anarchy is right now in the continuity. The last time I read up on him, he was dead.
I think so.
The original Anarchy had been murdered by a guy posing as him who ended up being a really bad person. I would bring back the original Anarchy and have him and Tim engage in a battle of wits. Ooh. Because they were so great because they were the same age. Anarchy was kind of younger. He was a kid but he was an evil genius, and Tim is our genius detective. So really trying to play up a battle of wits between the two, I think would be such a fun. And because now that Tim has come out as bi, we could definitely give it a bit more of a fight flirt kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And it could even be that Anarchy isn't even bi. He's just trying to game Tim's emotions, because Tim has always tried to like help him and reach out to him and redeem him. So I think there could be some really fun. Because he was always Tim's like nemesis to me. So I think that would be a really fun angle. But I don't want Anarchy to be too evil. I don't want another mini Joker out of him. I want him to be more, because he was always a good guy too. Like, I'm going to steal all this money and give it to poor people. Like, he's always had a Robin Hood kind of angle. And I think that'd be fun to do that two sides of the same coin, where Tim is the avenging good guy, a little more on the lawful good. And then Anarchy is more on the chaotic neutral or chaotic good side of like, yeah, I break the law, but I help people. Can you really get that mad at me? I think it'd be fun to play that off with their two intellects. Like,
I like that.
Yeah, he needs his own cat man. And I know that's a character out there, but
he doesn't need Catman.
Exactly.
That's true. Just
like
Catman,
they tried to do that with
sidekick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. Ugh. Love it.
I feel like they tried to do this with Iceman at one point, where they gave Daken his like Catwoman role, and it never panned out.
Well, and I don't like Daken as a foil for Bobby, because he's a murderer and he's dark and he's really too. I really don't like the evil bisexual trope. It bothers me. It's really problematic. And Daken, to me, especially when they first introduced him, and people are like, oh, is he bi? I said, no, he's just sleeping with guys to use them and for certain nefarious purposes. I'm like, that's really playing into that really bad biphobic concept. So I might use that some with Anarchy, but I would be very cautious about it, because Daken to me is irredeemable because he's such a murderer.
That's fair.
Not me over here, a Daken fan.
I kind of got that.
TJ simps a lot of villains. I mean, I simp a lot of villains too. So
in the Krakoa era, he's good.
I forget the Krakoa era is very different.
He only murdered people sometimes.
Look, as a Jason Todd fan, I cannot judge people who like murderers. I've never forgotten that there is a whole bag full of heads in Jason's closet.
Oh my goodness.
I'm a big fan of her good redemption story, though.
Yeah, me too.
Take somebody and redeem them.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool. So that'd be my best Tim pitch, as it were.
TJ, I love it.
Did Anarchy come back in the Detective Comics, or am I making that up? Wasn't that Anarchy?
So there was a character
who was Anarchy-like. Was he supposed to be Anarchy?
I don't know. I don't remember his name. So in the tie-in Detective Comics, there's a character who's very similar to what you're describing Anarchy as.
I think he might be like the new version of Anarchy.
Right. I don't think he's the same character, though. He's like Tim if he was adopted into the military and made to do really evil things.
Yeah, and he's the one who killed the original Anarchy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. So it is the same
Sentinel.
character.
He's like the Sentinel or the
Yes, you're right.
Yes,
that's what it is.
The Sentinel. That's it.
Yeah, he definitely flirted with Tim, though. Like that.
Yeah, they had that relationship.
Well, I mean, it's Tim. Sure. Who's not going to flirt with Tim?
Even Prue, despite ambiguous age difference.
Prue is Tim's age, or somewhat near,
or younger, or 12.
I would love to get Tim and evil.
Very tall 12-year-old.
Very strange. And now I'm remembering now. I dropped the initial Tim solo run when he slept with Cassandra Cain. When I was just like, no, like
that's when we definitely. That I have locked in the mental box somewhere, where I keep this fact that Starfire has slept with multiple of Bruce Wayne's sons.
Well, you know what? We can just toss it up to that was the old continuity, and now it never happened. In this one.
Yeah. We don't know what has or has not happened in this continuity, so I'm going to put Cassandra Cain sleeping with Tim in that thing that didn't happen. Oh
God, you triggered me. I forgot about the whole like, oh, it's just sex. I don't have emotions because I'm an alien thing.
Yeah, you remember that? She's like, you look like a little like somebody I used to fuck, and Jason's like, uh-oh. Who?
Let's go. Yeah,
no, it was after they'd already slept together, and then he was like, who do I look like? And she's like, there was this guy from Gotham.
Oh no.
It's we're gonna read that one at some point. I like that run otherwise, but that moment was
and I've got the trade around here somewhere.
Yeah,
That's somewhere in the vault.
It's a fun run, but it has, well, I feel like he got better with Starfire. She became like the captain of the ship and was really powerful, but her first couple issues in that where she's just like a space sex kitten were
it was straight out of Psycho Beach Party. I just can't get over it.
It really was.
On that note, David, thank you for coming on. Where can our listeners find you on social media? And do you have any projects you would like to advertise?
Thank you for letting me yatter on way about random shit for
please.
Such a blast.
Yeah, so the easiest place to find me online is davidarslayton.com. That's my website. I'm pretty active on social media. You can find me on Twitter as long as it holds together and doesn't get totally Nazified. But yeah, just reach out to me on davidarslayton.com. I have a newsletter. My third book in the Adam Binder series, which is the last one for now, Deadbeat Druid, came out on October 18th.
And it's incredible.
We just made Audible's best of 2022.
Congrats!
Wow. It's pretty cool. And next year I have my debut high fantasy, Dark Moon, Shallow Sea, out on Halloween, as well as a gay, geeky rom-com called To Catch a Geek. I don't have the exact release date yet. And then I have a spinoff to the Adam series called Rogue Community College, which is X-Men meets Doctor Who, with maybe a dash of Umbrella Academy coming in 2024.
I cannot wait for literally any of those things.
I'm going to read White Trash Warlock very soon. Chris keeps telling me how amazing it is, and it sounds like everything I would love.
Yeah.
So you're
going to read it and be obsessed with it, and then you're going to get to the end
I feel like I will.
Be angry, but then there'll be more, and you'll be okay.
And there's a spinoff coming out.
Yes.
That's exciting.
I have a guy who commissioned character cards, and he drew Adam as Aaron, Captain Rogers, Aaron, the Captain America the Rails. Yeah. And that was Adam's Halloween costume last year.
Oh, that was I saw that. You posted it, right? Or am I hallucinating that? You did, right? Okay. That was beautiful. I also loved when you posted the French cover of those novels, and Adam is hot AF.
French Adam plays. That's all I can say.
French Adam is an immediate smash.
I have to plug. We just talked to the guy that created that Aaron Fisher character, Josh Trujillo. So go listen to that interview.
Yes. I tweeted at him my love of like, thank you so much for making this character.
Such a good character.
It's amazing, and he's so nice. Mm-hmm. All right, we'll come back anytime. Let us know what book you would want to do.
Yeah, 100%. And next time on Gotham Outsiders, we will be joined by returning guest Kent Mutil, the director of Batman Telltale. And we will be reading
a classic and a sequel to the last book we talked about with Kent. We're talking about Dark Victory by Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb. And it's the sequel to Long Halloween. So I'm excited to know what is going to happen next. And I know this is a version of the Dick origin story. So we haven't really read much Dick as Robin, which means I haven't really read much of Dick as Robin. So I'm excited.
Will we get more ambiguously queer villains? We'll find out. Thank you for listening to the Gotham Outsiders. You can find me, Chris, on Twitter at The Myth of Psyche, where I talk about feminism, psychology, and Batman, of course. But you can also find me on my new show at Thirsty on Tune, over on the Talking Comics feed, where Bronwyn and I review webtoons and drink wine, and also review romance novels. You can also find me writing reviews at talkingcomics.com, and I am now accepting consulting clients. So if you need someone to do sensitivity reading or consult on psychology or queer identity, I'm your person. You can also find my co-host TJ
at Troyfin2 on Twitter, where I talk about books, gay things, gay books, and all sorts of things, including Batman pretty often, way more than I used to. And I recently became an official librarian, so you can find all sorts of book reviews that I post just for fun, a lot of advanced reviews of books that haven't come out yet. So if you're looking for a nice gay read, please hit me up. You could also find me talking on other podcasts just here and there if you search my name on any podcast service provider that you listen to.
And you can find us both talking about Batman all the time at the Gotham Outsiders. So join us next time. Same bat time, same bat place.